I inherited a cabin in the Arizona desert from my stepmother, a woman who died alone 40 miles from the nearest town. I thought she was paranoid, until I found the notebook. 10 rules, written in shaky handwriting. Rule number 1, walk the perimeter before sunrise. Spread blue cornmeal. Don't stop. Don't look back. Rule number 3, if something calls your name after dark, it isn't me. Don't answer. Rule number 9, if your reflection moves before you do, leave. Immediately. I almost laughed. Then on my first night there, I heard my father's voice outside the cabin. My father has been dead for 15 years. He knew my name, and it sounded patient. That's when I realized something terrifying. The rules weren't there to keep me safe inside the cabin. They were there to keep something else out. Hi there. Earlier than we dive in, short request. If those testimonies provide you with chills, show a few love with a like and subscribe. Cellular users, please faucet that hype button. It is how we reach extra horror fanatics like you. Oh, and drop a remark with where you are listening from. Now let's get into it. I drove into Crimson Mesa on a Tuesday morning with a headache, a guilty moral sense I wouldn't renounce, and Ruth's attorney's cope with programmed into my GPS. The Arizona desert stretched out, like something God had deserted midway through introduction. Flat, brown, in wireless scrub and dust beneath a sky so blue it harmed to have a look at. My Civic's air conditioning had given up somewhere close to flag personnel. And by the point I crossed into Navajo Kingdom territory, I used to be respiratory warm air and questioning why the hell I might come. Due to the fact Ruth left you the cabin, I reminded myself. Because you left out her requires 3 years and now she's lifeless, and this is actually the least you could do. The guilt tasted like pennies. Ruth's cabin sat 20 minutes outdoor Pink Mesa right, down a dirt street that tested my Civic suspension and my staying power. After I in the end noticed it, small adobe walled, surrounded via moss white and purple rock, I felt something loosen in my chest. It changed into smaller than I remembered, much less intimidating, only a house. I might been 7 the remaining time I visited. Ruth had simply married my father. She'd introduced me here for a few type of ceremony with an elder lady whose face I couldn't quite consider. Grandma Agnes, Ruth had known as her. They'd given me a name in Navajo. I had forgotten it by the point we drove back to Seattle. That was 21 years in the past. I hadn't been returned on account that. The cabin key turned into under the ceramic turtle by means of the front door, precisely in which the lawyer stated it'd be. I let myself in, dragging my duffel in the back of me. Interior smelled like sage and dirt and something else. Cornmeal maybe. The furnishings turned into sparse. A worn sofa, a wood-burning stove, a kitchen desk with 2 chairs, Navajo rugs at the walls, a shelf of books, approximately wasteland vegetation and indigenous records. No television, no C084D04 DACAD 4B971A3D98 FEC2A router. Ruth had lived right here alone for 15 years after my father died. 15 years inside the center of nowhere, speaking to no person. I must have visited. I have to have known as returned. The pocket book become at the kitchen desk, encumbered with a chunk of turquoise the dimensions of my thumb. It became spiral-bound, the kind you purchase at drugstores. Ruth's handwriting included the primary web page in neat, cautious letters. My call on the top. Leo. I sat down, opened it. Leo, if you're studying this, I'm long past. I'm sorry I didn't get to mention goodbye nicely. I'm sorry for loads of things, however proper now I want you to concentrate. This cabin has guidelines. They sound insane. They may be now not. Observe them precisely. Do now not improvise. Do now not take a look at them. Do no longer expect I was paranoid or senile or dropping my mind. I was none of these matters. I used to be cautious. Under are the 10 regulations. Read all of them. Read them aloud. Hearing your very own voice say them makes them real, makes them stick. I like you. I usually did, even when you stopped calling, Ruth. I stared on the web page, felt something uncomfortable twist in my stomach. When had I ended calling? 2 years ago? 3? She'd left messages. I might intended to call again. I might just in no way gotten round to it. I turned the page. The 10 regulations. All proper, Ruth, I muttered. Let's listen it. I examine aloud, my voice flat and skeptical inside the empty kitchen. Rule 1, the cornmeal line. Every morning before sunrise, walk the fringe with blue cornmeal. Begin at front door, walk clockwise. Do no longer prevent. Do now not appearance returned. Do not talk until you come back. In case you run out before wireless live inside 3 days. I paused, blinked, stored reading. Rule the owl's eyes. In case you see an owl at some stage in the day, cross inside without delay. Do no longer have a look at it. In case you pay attention an owl at night time, cover ears and hum until it stops. In case you look into owl eyes and notice something looking lower back that is not an owl, you have 3 breaths to look away. If you fail, burn your call and scatter ashes at 4 corners before sunrise. Jesus Christ, I stated. Rule 3, the voice inside the dark. If you pay attention a person call your name from out of doors after sundown, do now not answer. Do not go to the window. Do no longer whisper, "Who is there?" Cowl ears and repeat your complete call aloud till it stops. If you solution without wondering, draw X and cornmeal on every door and window and look forward to sunrise without napping. My pores and skin prickled. I stored reading quicker now. Rule 4. The bundles. In case you Wi-Fi bundle of feathers, bones or stones, do not contact with skin. Use iron shovel. Carry to east facet. Pour kerosene. Burn. Do no longer breathe smoke. Do now not watch flames. Wash fingers 3 times cold water. If you touched it with pores and skin, reduce off that clothing and burn that too. Rule wireless, the stranger at the door. If an vintage Navajo lady comes to the door, do now not allow her in. You can go away water out of doors, location it on floor and near door earlier than she alternatives it up. If she speaks through door, do now not deliver your call. Call yourself Hostin or Azomo. If she laughs, near all home windows and do not appearance outdoor until morning. Rule 6, the coyote stare. If a coyote sits watching the cabin for extra than a minute, do no longer look away. Why first? Stare till it looks away. If it does not look away by means of sunset, mild kerosene lamps in each room and live in middle of most important room till sunrise. Do now not sleep. In case you sleep, you may now not wake up human. I stopped, read that remaining line again. You can now not awaken human. Rule 7, the forgotten dream. In case you wake and can't, do not forget your goals, check body for scratches, bruises, dirt. In case you discover any, you walked outdoor in sleep. Take a look at cornmeal line. If disturbed, visit 4 corners, north, south, east, west, and at each say, I am complete name. I stroll on legs. I go back to my domestic. This land recollects me. In case you cannot remember your full call, she has taken it. My mouth turned into dry. I stored going. Rule 8, the crying baby. In case you hear a child crying outside at night time, do not go out. Do now not open door. Do no longer look towards sound. Cowl ears and sing loud any tune off key. If crying stops and footsteps retreat, secure. If crying maintains till sunrise, test the well. Something left there. Do now not bring internal. Pour lime into nicely. Cap with iron lid. Rule 9, the replicate inside the morning. Each morning, wirelessest element, appearance and replicate and say complete name aloud. If mirrored image doesn't pass mouth with you or speaks a moment when you or smiles whilst you are not smiling, go away cabin right now. Walk to dual carriageway. Do not appearance lower back. Do now not prevent. Cabin is not yours. She has learned your face. Rule 10. The closing wireless rule. If you damage a rule, do now not melancholy. Depression is invitation. Why combat by way of remembering? You have a call. Say it. You have got a body. Pinch till it hurts. You have got a home. Touch walls. Feel adobe. Experience iron. In case you've broken too many, if you pay attention your very own voice calling from outside, go to root cellar. Lock door. Deer pores and skin bundle on shelf. Turquoise in left hand. Feather in right. Close eyes. Wait. In case you're lucky, my voice will come. No longer hers. What? I'm able to inform you a tale. Concentrate. Do now not concentrate to whatever else. The tale lasts till dawn. If you listen it to the cease, you continue to exist the night. I cannot inform it 2 times. I'm saving it for you, Leo. Do now not make me wait too long. I closed the pocketbook, sat there in the silent kitchen. Then I laughed. It got here out harsh and unpleasant. Ruth, I stated to the empty room. What the hell happened to you out right here? Paranoia needed to be 15 years alone inside the wasteland. No associates, no own family touring. She'd misplaced it slowly, quietly, the way human beings do when isolation grinds them down. The guidelines have been made from a lonely, fearful thoughts trying to impose order on an international that felt antagonistic. I felt a pang of guilt, sharper this time. I ought to have visited, must have checked on her. Perhaps if I had, she wouldn't have spiraled into this. I spent the afternoon unpacking, exploring. The cabin had 1 bedroom, 1 restroom, a root cellar handy through a trapdoor inside the kitchen ground. I discovered bags of blue cornmeal inside the pantry, a kerosene lamp on every windowsill, an iron shovel with the aid of the return door. Ruth had lived with the aid of those regulations. Absolutely lived by them. The sun set round 7. I made ramen at the historical fuel stove, ate its status on the counter, and tried now not to think about Rule 3. If you hear a person call your call from outdoor after sundown, do not solution. At 9:47 p.m. I heard the owl. It turned into a soft sound in the beginning, a low hooting from someplace near the most quiet trees. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through vintage images on my cell phone while the sound registered. I seemed up. The window blinds were open. Oh. If you pay attention an owl at night time, cover ears and hum until it stops. I didn't cowl my ears. I walked to the window and regarded out. The owl sat on a fence put up maybe 20 backyard away. Big, light eyes reflecting the porch mild in twin gold discs. Watched the cabin, watched me. I stood there, heart beating quicker than it should, and informed myself, it's an owl. They stay right here. That is excellent. The owl became its head too far, farther than it should have been able to, and kept staring. I stepped again, closed the blinds. At 11:33 p.m. I heard the voice. Good day? Lady, aged, faint, like it was coming from a long way away. Hi there, is a person there? I froze at the couch, smartphone halfway to my face. Rule 3. If you pay attention a person name your name from outdoor after sunset, do not answer. However, she hadn't known as my call. She just stated what's up. Howdy. I want assist, please. My hand changed into at the doorknob before I realized I'd moved. I stopped, compelled myself to breathe. Do now not answer. Do no longer visit the window. Please. I am lost. My throat tightened. What if it became actual? What if someone actually wanted assist? Cowl ears and repeat your complete name aloud till it stops. I pressed my hands over my ears and stated, Leonard Francis Matson. Leonard Francis Matson. Leonard Francis Matson. My voice sounded loud and silly and scared. The voice out of doors stopped. I kept saying my call for some other 5 minutes till my hands had been slick with sweat and my coronary heart turned into hammering so hard I would bypass out. When I finally lowered my palms, the cabin changed into silent. I failed to sleep properly. Morning came gray and funky. I stood at the bathroom replicate, stared at my very own face and stated, Leonard Francis Matson. My mirrored image moved with me, spoke with me, failed to smile. Rule 9, test. I found the bag of blue cornmeal inside the pantry and stood on the front door keeping it, feeling ridiculous. Each morning before dawn, walked the fringe with blue cornmeal. The sun changed into already up. I would miss the window. Screw it, I muttered. I walked the perimeter anyway, dribbling cornmeal in a skinny line around the cabin, clockwise like the rule of thumb stated. I didn't prevent, did not look back. Felt like an idiot the complete time. Once I finished the circle and came returned to the front door, I felt not anything, no comfort, no feel of safety, just embarrassment. I went inside, made coffee, and tried to convince myself closing nighttime were my creativeness. At 10:15 a.m. I discovered the package deal. It changed into near the most quiet tree at the east facet. A small tight cluster of feathers, bones, and what gave the impression of dried sage bound collectively with twine. I stared at it. Rule 4. In case you find a package of feathers, bones, or stones, do now not contact with pores and skin. Use iron shovel. Bring to east side. Bad kerosene. Burn. I regarded around. The desert become empty, silent, warm. A person had left this here currently, perhaps final night. I should burn it. I did not. I walked, returned internal, closed the door and advised myself, it's just trash. Wasteland particles. Probable been there for months. That nighttime I dreamed. My father stood on the tree in 50 backyard from the cabin. He wore the flannel blouse he died in, blue and gray test, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He failed to flow, didn't wave. Simply stood there looking the cabin, looking me. I attempted to call out to him, however my voice would not paintings. I woke at 4:47 a.m. with a pointy ache in my left forearm. I grew to become on the bedside lamp and seemed. 3 parallel scratches, skinny and red, ran from elbow to wrist. My breath stuck. Rule 7. If you wake and cannot, don't forget your desires, check body for scratches, bruises, dirt. However, I remembered my dream. I remembered my father. I touched the scratches. They stung. I were given up, checked the front door, locked, checked the windows, latched, checked the cornmeal line. It was disturbed, scuffed in one phase near the lower back door like something had stepped through it. My palms shook as I refilled the line. Day 3. I woke exhausted, checked the reflect, stated my call. I made coffee, walked the fringe, averted looking on the bundle close to the most quiet. At 200 p.m. I saw the coyote. It is at 30 yard out within the complete solar, looking the cabin, looking me via the kitchen window. Rule 6. If a coyote sits watching the cabin for extra than a minute, do not appearance away first. I stared lower back. The coyote didn't blink, failed to pass, just sat there, tongue-ling, eyes fixed on mine. 1 minute handed. My eyes burned. I wanted to appearance away. 3 minutes. The coyote stood, stretched, and trotted off into the scrub. I exhaled. Forgot about the lamps. I should have lit the kerosene lamps. That is what Rule 6 stated. If it doesn't look away by using sundown, light kerosene lamps in each room and stay in middle of most important room until dawn. Do now not sleep. However, the coyote had regarded away. I would won. So I didn't mild the lamps. I ate dinner, watched the sun set, went to mattress at 10:30 p.m., and woke at 1:08 a.m. Status under the front door, hand on the deadbolt, breath fogging the glass. Outdoor within the porch mild, I could see her. She stood 10 feet from the door, sporting the red get dressed I remembered from my father's funeral. Her hair turned into gray and unfastened round her shoulders, shifting in a wind I couldn't experience. Leo, she stated. Her voice became muffled via the door but unmistakable. Leo, please permit me in. She's coming. Please. My hand changed into at the deadbolt. I was approximately to show it. Then I remembered. Rule 3. If you answer without wondering, draw X and cornmeal on each door and window and wait for dawn without sleeping. I yanked my hand back, stumbled backward, and grabbed the bag of cornmeal from the kitchen counter. My hands shook so badly I spilled half of it, but I managed to attract X's onto the front door, the return door, each window. Leo. Ruth's voice louder now. Determined. Please don't depart me out here. I pressed my hands over my ears and sank to the floor in the middle of the primary room. I failed to sleep. At sunrise I checked the porch. Ruth changed into long gone. However, inside the dust near them squat tree, scratched in huge, careful letters, were 2 words. Hey, Leonard. I stared at them. She used my complete call, not Leo. Leonard. She already knew extra than she should. Day 4 started out with proof I couldn't deny. I woke at sunrise, went to the restroom, reflect first thing. Leonard Francis Madsen, I said to my mirrored image. It moved with me, spoke with me. No delay, no wrong smile, no teeth wherein they should not be. I exhaled. The replicate check turned into turning into the handiest anchor I had left. I grabbed the cornmeal bag from the kitchen counter and stepped out of doors into the pre-dawn gray. The desert become cool and nonetheless, the air sharp sufficient to sting my lungs. I walked the fringe clockwise, dribbling blue cornmeal in a constant line, not speaking, not looking back, following the rule precisely. The ritual felt less ridiculous now. After 3 nights of owl calls and voices calling from the darkness and waking up on the front door with my hand on the knob, habitual felt less like paranoia and extra just like the skinny line between me and something I did not need to apprehend. I finished the circle and back to the front door. Then I noticed it. The cornmeal line close to the back corner of the cabin became disturbed. Now not scuffed like before, however broken cleanly, intentionally, like something had stepped through without hesitation, without attempt, without caring approximately the protection at all. And within the dirt beside the destroy, a paw print, coyote, huge, larger than any coyote print should be. The pads were clean and awesome, pressed deep into the crimson soil like something made it had been heavy, large, actual, clean, in all likelihood made someday throughout the night at the same time as I slept, even as I used to be inclined within the line. My arms went bloodless. My belly dropped like I'd neglected a step in the darkish. The coyote shouldn't were able to cross. That changed into the whole point of the cornmeal. Protection, boundary, a line that held things returned. However, there it was, undeniable proof that something had gotten through, that the policies were not absolute, that the protections Ruth had maintained for 15 years have been failing. Both they had been weakening on their personal, or the which was getting stronger, getting to know the way to breach the boundaries, trying out them till they broke. Neither alternative changed into properly. I refilled the road with shaking arms, poured extra cornmeal over the music till I couldn't see it anymore, then traced the entire perimeter once more for appropriate measure. It in all likelihood failed to assist. The damage was already achieved. But I needed to do something. Had to sense like I had some manipulate over what become taking place out here. I went inner, locked the door, checked it 2 times, checked the back door, checked each window latch. Then I sat at the kitchen table and attempted to respire usually while my pulse hammered in my ears and sweat cooled on my again despite the morning sit back. Ruth's pocketbook sat on the desk wherein I would left it, the turquoise paperweight glowing in the vulnerable morning light. I would examine the rules a dozen instances via now, memorized maximum of them, but I hadn't regarded beyond them. Hadn't thought there might be greater. Hadn't desired to know. I opened it now. Flipped past the pages with the 10 guidelines written in Ruth's careful hand. Expected blank pages. Perhaps some grocery lists or phone numbers. Now not clean. Extra entries, magazine entries. Similarly backdated. I might overlook them absolutely. Ruth's handwriting, but special from the cautious script at the regulations pages. Smaller, cramped. The letters pressed hard into the paper like she'd been gripping the pen too tight, like her hands were shaking when she wrote. Scare. October 3rd. It has been 6 months on the grounds that Frank died. The legit document said coronary heart assault, natural causes. They discovered him inside the driveway at 3 a.m. nonetheless in his pajamas, one hand achieving in the direction of the house like he changed into trying to get returned internal. I recognize higher. He spoke back the door. I informed him 1,000 times. By no means solution after sundown. By no means. However, he said he heard me calling. Stated I sounded harmed, terrified, like something become attacking me. However, I used to be asleep upstairs the entire time. I failed to call him. I didn't make a valid. She wore my voice. She discovered it from listening on the home windows. From the years I spent speaking to Frank, giggling with him, announcing his call, and she or he used it. Frank opened the door thinking he'd become saving me. They said it became his coronary heart. Cardiac arrest, sudden. But his face, Leo, if you're studying this, you need to recognize. His face appeared non-violent, empty, like he'd forgotten something crucial and couldn't pretty keep in mind what it become. She took his name. That's the way it works. You deliver your name willingly or not, and she or he adds you to her series. My throat closed. I could not breathe. My father. Dad died while I used to be 22. Heart attack inside the driveway at 3:00 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. Unexpected, the doctor stated, unexpected. He'd been wholesome, lively, no caution symptoms, just long past. I might been in Seattle, 3 weeks into my first real activity. Ruth known as me at 4:00 a.m. Her voice become flat, empty. Leo, your father, he's long gone. Heart assault. I'm sorry. I drove down for the funeral. Stayed 3 days. Avoided eye contact with Ruth because I didn't recognize what to mention to her. Then I left, went again to Seattle, returned to my life. I by no means requested questions, by no means requested why he was outdoor at 3:00 a.m. in no way requested why Ruth appeared so haunted. I just left. I kept studying. October 17th. The protections are protecting barely. The cornmeal works if I walk it each morning earlier than dawn, now not after. Before. The timing matters, however she's trying out them every night now. Distinctive voices. Frank's voice closing night time. My mother's voice the night time earlier than. She's studying, accumulating. Agnes warned me this would manifest finally. The blessing she gave Leo whilst he became 7. It is tied to me, to my name. So long as I keep the cabin, the protections preserved for both of us. But if I forget, if I fail, if I provide my name, I cannot permit that show up. Leo is safe in Seattle. He does not visit. Really is good. That is more secure. I closed the pocketbook and stared at the turquoise paperweight until my vision blurred. Ruth had known. She'd acknowledged precisely what killed my father, and she'd stayed here anyway. 15 years by myself in the wilderness, walking cornmeal traces each morning earlier than sunrise, retaining protections for a stepson who in no way visited, in no way called again, by no means said thanks. She'd stayed to hold me safe, and I would allow her die alone. Day 5, morning reflect, take a look at handed. Cornmeal walk completed earlier than sunrise. No new tracks in the line. At 10 a.m. I discovered the bundle onto the front porch. It sat directly in the front of the door, focused flawlessly. Feathers, small bones, dried sage, all certain collectively with pink twine, sparkling. It hadn't been there at some stage in my cornmeal stroll an hour ago. She'd left it after, located it at the same time as I used to be inside. Rule 4: do now not touch with skin. Use iron shovel. Carry to east side. Pour kerosene. Burn. I did it efficaciously this time. No hesitation. I fetched the iron shovel from beside the return door, scooped up the package without letting it contact my pores and skin, and carried it to the east facet of the property, poured kerosene from the can inside the shed, struck a fit, dropped it. The package deal caught right away. Blue-green flames shot up and the smoke that rose was thick and black and smelled like burning hair. I walked away without looking. Went interior and washed my hands 3 instances in bloodless water, scrubbing till my skin became purple. It felt like progress, like I used to be studying the rules, following them effectively. That feeling lasted till dusk. I dreamed of my father again. He stood at the tree in his blue and gray flannel shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows. After I attempted to name out to him, he raised one hand slowly, shook his head. "Don't answer the door, Leo." His voice became quiet, sad, resigned. "Irrespective of who you hear, regardless of what she feels like, even supposing it appears like Ruth, despite the fact that it appears like me, do not answer the door. She's wearing us now." I attempted to ask him what he supposed, however my voice would not paintings. He checked out me with empty eyes and said, "I am sorry I didn't warn you. I forgot how." I woke at 5:13 a.m. with my heart hammering and lay inside the darkish until dawn. Day 6. Replicate surpassed. Cornmeal walked. However, once I got here, returned inside and kicked off my shoes, I appeared down. Dirt crimson desolate track, dust caked thick on my heels and between my feet. I'd walked out of doors in my sleep. Rule 7. In case you find dust, you walked outdoor in sleep. Test cornmeal line. If disturbed, visit Four Corners. The line changed into scuffed close to the door. Bare footprints leading out, then returned in. My prints. I didn't recall any of it. I grabbed the notebook, reread Rule 7 twice, then compelled myself out of doors. Four Corners, north, south, east, west. On the north nook, I stood inside the scrub and said, "I'm Leonard Francis Madsen. I walk on two legs. I get into my home. This land recollects me." The words felt strange. Ancient, but I said them. South corner. Repeated it. West corner. Repeated it. East nook. I stopped. She turned into their 50 yards out, status and full morning solar where nothing need to be capable of stand without shade. An antique Navajo lady, small, thin, maybe 5 feet tall. She wore a crimson get dress that hung unfastened on her frame. Gray hair fell beyond her shoulders in thick waves. And even though there has been no wind, now not even a breeze, her hair moved, shifted, drifted a door it turned into underwater. She watched me. I stared lower back. She did not blink, didn't circulate, did not sway like a residing individual does while standing. Just stood there perfectly nevertheless, arms at her aspects, head tilted slightly, eyes fixed on mine. Her eyes were incorrect, too dark, no longer brown or black, void dark, like looking into deep water at night. I wanted to run. Rather, I said, "I'm Leonard Francis Madsen. I walk on legs. I lower back to my home. This land recalls me." My voice shook. She smiled. Not kind, no longer cruel, just knowing. Then she just stood there watching. The solar climbed higher. Sweat soaked via my blouse. My legs act from status rigid. My eyes burned from now not blinking. She did not pass. Did not appearance away. Didn't seem suffering from heat or time. 1 hour. 2. At 3 hours I used to be shaking from exhaustion. My vision swam, however I did not. Appearance away. Eventually she became easy and unhurried and walked into the scrub. Her red dress disappeared at the back of a mosquite tree. I waited, then walked across the tree, long gone completely. I seemed where she'd been standing for 3 hours. No footprints, just undisturbed dust. Day 7. The cornmeal turned into degrading faster now. I walked the fringe at dawn, laid down a stable line, however 10 minutes later, sections already regarded thinner, faded. I checked the pantry. 1 bag of blue cornmeal left. If I walked once an afternoon, maybe 2 weeks, much less if the degrading persevered. 2 weeks, then not anything. I searched the cabin. Under the mattress I found more journals. 5 spiral notebooks stacked and tied with twine. Ruth's handwriting deteriorated throughout the months. Neat within the first, frantic inside the 0.33. March 12th, cornmeal cargo delayed. She got nearer. I saw her at the nicely ready. May additionally 8th. The protections are failing. Because they're old. Agnes achieved the blessing 17 years ago. She's been useless 5 years. I ought to depart. But if I do, Leo's name is tied to this region. She'll locate him in Seattle. I must stay. August 29th. I forgot my sender name nowadays. Got here again. Marie, but for 60 minutes I failed to comprehend it. It's how it starts. The forgetting. The remaining access become 3 months ago. November 4th. I am demise. The protections take something from me each day. Electricity, reminiscence, pieces of who I am. The turquoise within the root cellar holds a bit of me. If he wishes it, it's going to talk. I really like you, Leo. I usually did. Ruth Marie Madsen. P.S. They may find my frame 3M from here. That may not be me. I sat on the floor, journals scattered around me. Ruth died saving me. Spent 15 years alone keeping protections for a stepson who never visited. The guilt turned into insufferable. That night, the knocking started out at 11:47 p.m. 3 sharp raps. I froze at the sofa. Another 3 knocks, then my voice. Permit me in, Leo. She's coming. Please. It sounded exactly like me. Leo, please. I don't need to be out right here. I walked to the door and regarded through the peephole. Myself, status below the yellow, mild, equal height, identical build, same face, sporting my flannel shirt. The copy looked at the peephole, smiled. I recognize you may see me. Let me in. We'll be more secure collectively. I stepped again. The knocking came quicker. Leo, she's right behind me. Open the door. I sank to the floor and pressed my fingers over my ears. The voice pleaded, cried, please Leo, do not go away, me out right here. Pounding, then scratching, then silence. I waited 15 minutes, then checked the peephole. Empty porch. I didn't sleep. Sat with all the lighting on till dawn. Whilst the solar rose, I opened the door. 2 sets of footprints. One approached from the east. My shoe size, my tread. One led away west. Equal shoes, same size. She'd made a copy of me, learned my face, my voice, my walk. Somewhere accessible, something that appeared precisely like me become strolling around. The cabin might not recognize the difference. I won't understand the difference. She had my face now. Day 8 commenced with terror. I stood at the restroom replicate inside the pre-sunrise darkness, heart racing earlier than I even appeared up. What if my reproduction had gotten inner even as I slept? What if I looked up and noticed it staring returned, wearing my face better than I should? Leonard Francis Madsen, I said to the mirror. My mirrored image moved with me, spoke with me. No postpone, no wrong smile. I exhaled shakily. Still me, still human for now. Outside, the desolate tract become cool and gray. I walked the cornmeal line earlier than sunrise, pouring from the bag that become now greater than half empty. 3 days left, perhaps 4 if I stretched it cautiously. Then not anything. Then I would need to stay inside for 3 days in step with Rule 1. And after that, Ruth's journals hadn't blanketed what came about while the cornmeal ran out completely. When I came lower back internal, something made me think of the well. Rule 8 cited checking it if crying endured till sunrise. I hadn't heard a toddler crying remaining night, however a few intuition, the identical intuition that had kept me alive this lengthy, made me check besides. The properly turned into behind the cabin, a stone-lined hollow with a heavy iron cap. The cap was askew, moved numerous inches to the side. Something had opened it at some stage in the nighttime while I slept. I approached slowly and looked down into the darkness. Something floated inside the water 15 toes beneath. A package deal larger than the others wrapped in material, written on the fabric in charcoal for Leo. She'd written my call, left it there like a present, like an invite. I didn't contact it. Instead, I went to the shed, found the bag of lime Ruth had left, and poured the whole component down the nicely. White powder cascaded into the darkness, hitting the water with an irritated hiss. The package deal sank at once, dissolved, long past. I replaced the iron cap, weighted it down with heavy stones, and went lower back inside with my hands shaking. I needed to understand greater. Why this was going on. Why me? Why my family? Why Ruth had stayed here for 15 years combating something she need to have acknowledged she couldn't in the long run beat. I searched the cabin thoroughly, pulled out each drawer, checked each shelf, appeared behind fixtures. In Ruth's final magazine I found what I used to be looking for. July 14th. I have been considering the protection right Agnes completed for Leo while he becomes 7 years antique. Frank and I delivered him right here during summer rec. Leo doesn't take into account tons. He becomes so younger, so bored via the rituals. However, Agnes gave him something precious that day. A true name. A name and a sacred call the witch can't take because she became in no way instructed it. Cannot even hear it properly. The name is hidden behind the fireplace. 1/3 brick from the bottom on the left. If something takes place to me, if Leo desires it, that's where it's far. A real name is an anchor. Who you're whilst everything else is stripped away. The witch collects given names, beginning certificate, regular names. But a sacred name, she cannot contact that. If Leo wishes to bear in mind who he is, the call will assist. My hands shook as I walked to the fireplace. My father, and that I had sat right here on iciness visits when I used to be a child, returned before I determined Ruth wasn't really worth my time. 1/3 brick from the bottom, left facet. I pressed on it. It shifted, got here unfastened. I pulled it out. In the back of it, a small hole inside the adobe wall. Inside a deer pores and skin pouch, tender with age. I pulled it out and opened it cautiously. Interior a bit of turquoise, easy and heat a door it were held by means of residing fingers lately. A feather owl or hawk I couldn't inform. And a chunk of paper folded small. I unfolded the paper. Ruth's handwriting. Careful, particular. He who watches the sun rise. This is your genuine call, Leo. The name Agnes gave you whilst you had been 7 years vintage. The call that anchors you to this world, on your body, to yourself. If you're studying this, matters have gone very wrong. Use this call. Do not forget it. Talk it while you sense yourself forgetting who you are. It is the only factor she absolutely can't take from you. I really like you. I constantly did. Ruth. I study the call time and again. Let the syllables settle into my mouth, my mind, my reminiscence. He who watches the sunrise. I am he who watches the sunrise. I carefully put the turquoise and feather returned within the pouch and tied it. Then I took the paper to the kitchen stove, struck it in shape, and watched Ruth's handwriting curl and blacken and flip to ash. The name became more secure in my head than on paper. More secure wherein simplest I ought to get right of entry to it. I positioned the pouch in my pocket and felt its weight like a promise, like Ruth's hand on my shoulder. That night time I dreamed of a canyon. Now not the cabin, no longer the tree, and elsewhere totally. Red rock partitions growing masses of feet on both sides, ancient and towering. Shadows pooling deep and funky at the bottom and on foot via the canyon in a long slow line. Human beings, dozens of them, perhaps 100, perhaps greater. Men, ladies, youngsters, elders, all taking walks in single file with the equal sluggish steps, their faces blank and non-violent like sleepers. They failed to speak, didn't have a look at each different, failed to appear to peer me in any respect. My father became amongst them. I diagnosed his blue and gray flannel blouse, his walk, the way he held his shoulders. I tried to name to him, tried to scream his call. No sound got here out. My voice became long gone. The road of people walked towards a discern on the cease of the canyon, an old girl in a red dress. She stood ready, affected person as stone, her gray hair drifting in wind that did not contact whatever else. As I watched, frozen and voiceless, she grew to become, seemed without delay at me. She smiled. I simply want the last piece, she stated. Her voice came from everywhere, the rocks, the air, interior, my cranium. Simply one extra name to complete the gathering. Just yours, Leo, then it is completed. I woke gasping at 3:47 a.m., sopping wet in sweat. Day 9 started with a horrible awareness. The cornmeal become long past. I'd used the absolute final of it that morning, taking walks the thinnest line I should likely manipulate, stretching every grain. It looked like nothing, like breath on glass, like it would disappear with the first breeze. I could not live here. Not without a safety left. I packed my duffel speedy, threw in garments, Ruth's journals, the deer paws and skin pouch. At 2 p.m., with the solar excessive and bright, I got in my Civic and drove away from the cabin. The dirt street stretched in advance, dirt pluming behind. I drove for 20 minutes, 30. The landscape failed to change. Equal crimson rocks, equal scrub, equal countless desert. Then I noticed the cabin in advance. Ruth's cabin. The exact cabin I just left. I used to be again. The road had looped impossibly. I ended the automobile, stared. This wasn't feasible. I'd pushed directly. Hadn't became around. I turned the automobile around, drove inside the opposite course. 40 minutes this time, faster, greater, determined, watching the odometer climb. The cabin regarded ahead once more. Equal function, like I would in no way left. I attempted a third time, a fourth, a fifth. Every street, every path, every determined attempt, the cabin, usually the cabin. The sun turned into setting, shadows lengthening. She wasn't letting me depart. The witch had closed all of the roads, bent the desert around the cabin right into a closed loop with no go out. I used to be trapped right here till this ended one manner or some other. I drove, returned and parked. My fingers shook on the steerage wheel. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. I went inside, locked the door, locked every window. Then I grabbed Ruth's very last magazine and compelled myself to study the entries I might been heading off. October 28th. I attempted to leave these days, packed the whole thing, were given inside the car at dawn, and drove. I drove for 2 hours, 47 m. I counted each mile. The roads looped. Every unmarried one. North, south, east, west. Didn't be counted. I came returned to the cabin on every occasion. She's closed the manor out. The moment I decided to abandon the protections to leave Leo undefended, she sealed the desolate tract. I am trapped here. I've been for months. Time feels incorrect now. November 1st. If I'm going to die right here, and I am. I realize that now. I need it on my phrases, no longer hers. Now not as certainly one of her accrued. I am going to the root dealer. I'm going to place a chunk of myself inside the turquoise Agnes gave me. A piece that recalls love. A chunk that could still talk whilst the rest of me is long gone. Agnes taught me how earlier than she died. Antique magic older than the witch. If Leo comes, if he hides inside the root cellar, the turquoise will help him. I'll help him even after I'm gone. November 2D. I am within the root cellar now. Dark and bloodless, however secure. She cannot get in. No longer even as I keep in mind my name. I can listen her above on foot via my domestic waiting. My call is Ruth Marie Madsen. I must hold saying it. My name is Ruth Marie Madsen. My name is Ruth. My call is the access stopped there. The pen trailing off. The relaxation turned into clean. The final page slightly legible. They will discover a frame 3 miles from right here close to the toll road. It's no longer me. That is what she made after I forgot. After she took my name. Do not grieve for it. I closed the journal and sat at the floor with my back in opposition to the wall. Ruth had died right here in the root cellar below wherein I sat, by myself, combating until the end, trying to shop a piece of herself so she could protect me one closing time. And I'd in no way visited, in no way known as, never stated thanks or I am sorry or I understand now. The guilt became crushing, heavier than worry, heavier than whatever. Day 10. I woke before dawn and walked the cornmeal line one final time. There has been almost not anything left, just a few grains I used to trace the thinnest feasible boundary. It gave the look of it'd vanish in seconds. I went interior, locked each door, every window, checked each latch. I lit every kerosene lamp Ruth had left, placed them in each room till the cabin glowed with warm orange light. Then I sat inside the genuine center of the main room and waited for night. The solar set slowly, portray the barren region red and gold before darkness swallowed the entirety. At nighttime precisely I watched the clock. The knocking started. 3 measured raps onto the front door. Then my father's voice. Leo, son, please allow me in. I'm so worn out. I simply want a relaxation. I didn't move. Failed to answer. Any other voice. Ruth. Leo. Sweetheart, it is me. I am returned. Please open the door. I've overlooked you so much. I closed my eyes, forced myself to respire. Then my very own voice, the copy. Leo, I'm you. You recognize I'm you. Permit me in. We ought to be collectively. The knocking came from each aspect now. Front door, lower back door, each window. A dozen fingers beating against wooden and glass. Then scratching. Lengthy, sluggish drags of nails against each floor. Then laughter. Her laughter. Antique and affected person and actually certain. I checked out the floor near the front door. The cornmeal line became sparkling. Faint blue light pulsing like a loss of life heartbeat. Then dimming, fading, long gone completely. The scratching stopped. Absolute silence. The front door rattled. The knob turned slowly. She become coming in. The protections had finally failed. I ran through the kitchen, grabbed the tray ordeal with, yanked it open, dropped down into the darkness of the base's cellar, pulled the enticed door close above me, threw the bolt with shaking fingers. Darkness whole and absolute. The air cold and thick and smelling of earth. I fumbled in my pocket for the deer paws and skin pouch. Found it, opened it. Turquoise in my left hand, feather in my proper, much like Rule 10 said. I closed my eyes. Above me, footsteps, slow, planned, unhurried, shifting through the cabin like she owned it now. Then her voice muffled with the aid of the wood trap door. Pop out, Leo. Bloodless, patient, inevitable as iciness. It's peaceful when you neglect. No greater worry. No more guilt about Ruth, about your father, about never visiting. Simply not anything. Simply peace. Is not that better? The footsteps stopped at once above me. Immediately above the enticed door. Pop out and be part of them. Your father misses you. Ruth is ready. They want you with them. Don't you want to be a family again? I gripped the turquoise tighter, felt its warm temperature spreading via my palm. The bloodless pressing down receded slightly. I'm he who watches the sunrise. Silence above. Then a brand new voice, completely one of a kind, softer, warmer, exhausted, but actual. Hello, Leo. Ruth's voice, however, not like before. Now not like the witch's imitation. This one felt true down to my bones. Like reminiscence and love and sacrifice. Near your eyes. Hold them closed. Regardless of what you pay attention to me and handiest me. I'm going to tell you a story. I stored my eyes closed. Held the turquoise and feather. Tried to respire gradually. Above me the opposite voice, the witch carrying Ruth's voice like a mask, laughed softly. That's now not me, Leo. It truly is her looking to trick you. I'm up here, the real Ruth. Pop out and spot me. But the voice from the turquoise persisted, consistent and calm. Do not listen to her. Pay attention, handiest to me. The tale lasts until sunrise. In case you pay attention it to the end, you survive the nighttime. You continue to exist her. Accept is true with me, Leo. Accept is true with me one remaining time. I failed to understand which voice turned into sincerely real. Failed to realize for sure if Ruth became absolutely talking through the turquoise or if the witch had discovered her voice so flawlessly over 15 years that even this changed into a trap. However, I had no preference, no other options, no other desire. I held the turquoise and the feather. And I listened. Ruth's voice got here from the turquoise in my left hand, heat and constant in opposition to my palm. Keep your eyes closed, Leo. No matter what you listen, no matter what you feel, keep the turquoise to your left hand. Hold the feather for your right. Breathe slowly. Live with me. I did. I held them. I breathed. Within the darkness above me, the witches. Footsteps persisted their gradual, patient circuit of the cabin floor. I'm going to tell you a tale, Ruth said. The tale I saved for this second. The tale I will simplest inform once. Concentrate to each word. The story lasts until sunrise. In case you pay attention at all of the way to the stop, you live on the night. Above me the floorboards creaked. The witch became at once overhead. Her name was Asden Sosi. Ruth commenced 200 years ago. She changed into a medicine female, reputable for the duration of the location, effective in the antique approaches. She had 3 children, daughters and a son. She loved them extra than something. The turquoise grew warmer in my hand. Then the Smalics got here. The white settlers brought it west. Her kids got unwell. All 3. First the boy, then the older daughter, then the youngest. She tried everything she knew, each recovery ceremony, each prayer, each plant and pus. However, they died besides. All 3 inside the same week. She buried them inside the hills and something internal her broke. I ought to pay attention the unhappiness in Ruth's voice, deep and vintage. The grief ate up her. She had become enthusiastic about strength, with manipulate, with making positive nothing ought to ever hurt her once more. There was another medication girl in her extended family, an elder named Bitsoy, older, wiser, extra effective in the harmful ways. Ashton went to her in wintry weather, begged her to educate her the darkest ceremonies, those that wreck Tabas, the ones that exchange portions of your soul for power. Above me the witch's voice reduced in overlapping Ruth's. Come out, Leo. Your father is anticipating you. He wants to see you. I gripped the turquoise tighter, pressured myself to attention most effective on Ruth's voice. However, so I refused, Ruth continued. Instructed Eston that the one ceremonies could damage her, that electricity won via corruption always consumes the consumer. So Eston waited until the darkest night, went to Bitswa's Hogan and killed her. Slit her throat at the same time as she slept, took her remedy package, took her understanding, took the entirety. The temperature within the root cellar dropped sharply. My breath got here out in white clouds. Frost formed on the earth in partitions. The corruption entered her that night time, Ruth said. With Bitso's blood nonetheless moist on her palms, she accomplished the forbidden ceremony. She won the electricity she wanted. Sure, but she lost herself piece by means of piece, reminiscence with the aid of reminiscence, till she forgot why she desired the power, till she forgot her children's names. Cold palms touched my throat. Not real now, not physical. However, I felt them certainly. They squeezed. She had 1 daughter left, Ruth endured, her voice reducing via my panic. Born years after the others died, a daughter who looked just like those she'd lost. And one night time in her madness she forgot. She looked at this living daughter and concept she turned into already lifeless. Notion she turned into a ghost. Something to be amassed. The hand squeezed harder. I could not breathe. She killed her very own toddler, Ruth said softly, strangled her in the night time. And while she realized what she'd completed, when she understood she'd killed the closing piece of her family, the corruption finished itself. She stopped being Asden Sauce totally. She had become something else. Something that handiest consumes, simplest collects, only waits. Liar. The witch hissed above me. You don't know. You do not understand. However, Ruth stored speaking. For 200 years she's wandered the barren region, Ruth stated, gathering names like stones, collecting faces like masks, collecting the residing and trapping them in her reminiscence all the time. She wears them whilst she needs, makes use of them while she needs, but she's no longer alive, Leo. She's not even clearly a person anymore. She's just starvation, wearing the form of what she was once. The cold receded slightly. The fingers on my throat loosened simply sufficient for me to gasp air. Your safety call, Haguchival. It is not a weapon, Ruth defined. It is now not a spell or defense. It's an anchor, a reminder of who you're at your center. She can't take what you won't supply her, Leo. She can most effective take what you overlook. So long as you consider your name, recollect yourself. She cannot touch the important center of you. However, I'm able to provide you peace, the witch said, and her voice was exclusive now. Gentle, almost kind. Pop out, Leo. Open the door. Provide me your name. And all of this ends. Be part of your father. Join Ruth. You may in no way be alone once more. In no way afraid once more. In no way guilty again. The fear ends, the doubt ends, the pain ends. All of it ends. I promise you peace. My hand trembled on the turquoise. The provide turned into so tempting. She's now not mendacity, Ruth said quietly. They are there, Leo, your father, me, dozens of others. We are no longer suffering. We are now not in pain. We're simply held, frozen, neither living nor lifeless. It is no longer hell. It's now not torture. It's simply not anything. Everlasting not anything. Then why shouldn't I? I whispered and my voice cracked. Why should not I just move? Due to the fact you're 28 years vintage, Ruth stated, and her voice became fierce now, passionate. Because you have not truly lived yet. You've got been hiding, Leo. Hiding in Seattle, hiding at the back of your photo layout paintings, hiding from relationships, hiding from hazard. You haven't cherished someone together with your whole coronary heart. Have not created something you're proud of. Haven't stood at the ocean at dawn and felt connected to something larger. Have not performed any of the things that make existence worth dwelling. Tears ran down my closed eyes, warm against my bloodless pores and skin. In case you be a part of us, she wins, Ruth persevered. No longer due to the fact she destroys you, no longer because she kills you, but due to the fact she stops you from becoming, from developing, from changing, from being. You have 50 years in advance of you, maybe 60, maybe extra. Years to grow to be a person you are happy with. Years to do something that subjects. Years to like and create and construct and develop. Don't allow her steal that. I'm so worn out, I said. I'm so bored with being afraid. So bored with the guilt. I recognize, but tired is not the same as finished. You are not finished, Leo. You're barely commenced. The witch's voice came once more, seductive and affordable. Your father misses you terribly. I pass over you. We may be a family again, Leo. Actual own family. Is not that what you constantly desired? Isn't that why you resented Ruth a lot? Due to the fact she wasn't your actual mother? I will provide you with that. I'm able to come up with the whole lot. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. She changed into right. That become precisely how I would felt. Come out, the witch whispered. Pop out and I'll provide you with what you have always wanted. She's offering you stasis, Ruth stated. I'm supplying you life. Messy, painful, lovely, complicated life. Actual life. The selection is yours, Leo. It must be yours. I can't make it for you. I sat within the darkness conserving the turquoise and feather and I notion approximately the whole lot I would completed wrong, each overlooked name, each cancelled go-to. Whenever I'd instructed Ruth I used to be too busy, every time I'd chosen resentment over love. And I notion approximately what I hadn't achieved yet, places I hadn't seen, things I hadn't made, human beings I hadn't met, love I hadn't felt. I opened my mouth and spoke genuinely. Aguch evil. The turquoise blazed hot in my hand. I am he who watches the sun rise. Hotter, warmer, alive. And I'm now not equipped to stop watching. I am now not geared up to end up nothing. Above me the witch screamed. No longer rage, not anger, frustration. Like a child denied something she'd almost touched. The scratching at the enticed door stopped. The voices stopped. The cold receded like a wave pulling lower back from shore. Silence. Whole silence. I stored my eyes closed. Kept retaining the turquoise and feather. Save breathing. Properly. Ruth whispered. You probably did it. Now live strong. Live unsleeping. I'm here with you. I will live till sunrise. And she or he did. Through the long midnights she talked to me. Advised me stories about my father after they first met at a trading summit. How awkward he'd been. How sweet. About the day she turned into followed into the Bitter Water clan. About Agnes and the protection ceremony while I used to be 7. How severely Agnes had taken it. How she'd regarded even then I might need it sooner or later. About the 15 years Ruth spent alone inside the cabin after my father died, keeping protections, writing guidelines, making ready. I knew you'd come finally, she stated. I knew you would inherit this area. I knew she'd attempt for you. You're the last piece of your father's bloodline, the closing call she wishes to complete the collection. I could not forestall her for all time, but I should give you a fighting chance. I could leave you the tools. Why did you live? I asked. Why did not you depart? Due to the fact if I left, she'd comply with me. And sooner or later, she'd discover you in Seattle. At the least here at the cabin, she's bound by the vintage rules, by way of the protections constructed into the land. Right here you had a chance to combat. Obtainable within the wider international, you'd have had not anything. You died protecting me. I died doing exactly what I selected to do. Don't convey that guilt, Leo. Please, I do not want you to carry it. It turned into my preference. But I might deliver it. I knew I might for the rest of my lifestyles. However, perhaps as gratitude instead of disgrace. Thank you, I whispered. I in no way said it before. I never stated it when you have been alive and I have to have. Thanks for everything. For loving Dad. For attempting with me. For this. You are welcome. Now look ahead to the dawn. It is coming soon. Experience the air changing. Dawn is near. And it became. The pitch black commenced to lighten. Gray, then pale blue, then the faintest hint of gold. The turquoise in my hand grew heat, then warm, then commenced to cool. Ruth's voice dwindled, developing softer. I'm going now. The sun is growing and that I can't stay. The piece of me I put within the turquoise is burning away. However, you may nevertheless be right here. You will see the sunrise. You may watch the sunrise, Leo. And you will preserve looking each morning for yourself. For me, for your father, for all and sundry who can't. Ruth, do not pass. Goodbye, Leo. Watch the sunrise for me. Every unmarried one. Then silence. The turquoise become only a stone in my hand. Cool, inert, empty, simply polished rock. I opened my eyes slowly. The foundation cellar became gray with pre-dawn light filtering through cracks across the trapdoor. I used to be absolutely alone. The feather and turquoise lay in my palms, just objects now. I stood slowly, my legs stiff, my body aching. But I was alive. I was myself. I used to be nevertheless right here. I climbed the timber ladder. Threw again the iron bolt, pushed open the lure door. The cabin became empty, silent. The front door stood huge open. Morning mild spilled through like water. I walked slowly to the door and appeared out on the wilderness. The cornmeal line was intact, ideal, unbroken, like it were freshly laid with the aid of careful arms. I checked out the landscape. Pink rocks catching first mild. Scrub brush casting long shadows. Dawn portray the whole lot gold and purple. And through the properly standing perfectly still, watching me. A determined and a red get dressed. The witch nevertheless here, nonetheless waiting. We stared at every other across the gap. She failed to pass, did not method, just watched with eyes that had visible 200 years. I touched my pocket, felt the turquoise and feather there. Then I turned, grabbed my keys from the desk and walked to my automobile. I were given in, started out the engine, drove down the dirt street. I watched the rear view replicate. The cabin grew smaller. The figure by means of the nicely failed to move, didn't observe. After I reached the motorway, the road didn't loop. This time it held. It led me ahead into the arena. I drove for 3 hours directly before I finished shaking. 6 months later, I woke in my Seattle apartment to gray November light. Sarah turned into nonetheless asleep beside me, one arm thrown over my chest, her breathing sluggish or even. I carefully moved her arm and sat up. The turquoise sat on my nightstand where I kept it each night. I picked it up, held it, only a stone now. No warm temperature, no voice, however I saved it anyway. I walked barefoot to the window, looked out at the fire break out. A crow sat at the metal railing, massive, black, perfectly nonetheless, watching me with eyes that failed to blink. My heart jumped. My hand went to my left wrist where I would gotten the tattoo months after leaving Arizona. The letters in cautious script. Aguch evil. I touched the tattoo, felt the slightly raised skin, whispered my name. I'm he who watches the sun upward thrust. The crow cocked its head. Watched me for another moment. Then it unfolded its wings and flew away. Only a crow, only a hen going approximately its morning. I watched until it disappeared into the gray sky. The window became empty for now, however I used to be here, alive, breathing, growing, converting, turning into. Sarah stirred. Leo, you okay? Yeah, I stated and supposed it. I'm desirable. Just watching the sunrise, she laughed sleepily. It is Seattle in November. There's no dawn, simply gray. There may be constantly a dawn, I stated. Even while you cannot see it. I walked, returned to bed, kissed her forehead, held her close, and each morning after that, no matter where I was, no matter what I used to be doing, I took a second to observe the dawn, to consider my call, to bear in mind Ruth, to remember the fact that I used to be nevertheless here, nevertheless developing, still becoming. The night hadn't ended. It never surely ends. The witch was still accessible, patient, waiting, watching. However, I knew my name. I knew what I used to be, protective. And for now, for today, that turned into sufficient.